Hello to my fellow history lovers and people that think if I learn something new, it will be a good day. We're going to look at Washington's rival, which is General Howe, in David McCullough's 1776. At some point in the book, McCullough says he was really surprised that the British didn't spend more time studying the character of Washington, who was obviously leading the army against them. But he tells a little bit about Howe and his personality, and I found it really interesting. So it says as follows. Howe's ability and courage were indisputable. As a heroic young lieutenant in the French and Indian War, he had been called, and I quote, the best officer in the King's service. At Bunker Hill, so now Bunker Hill, keep in mind, after the Battle of Lexington and Concord and then the whole siege of Boston that whole time, Gage, who was the previous general, is booted out because he has not got the job done. In other words, he hasn't quashed the rebellion. So in comes Howe, and Howe is supposed to clean up this mess. And so Bunker Hill will be his first action in this part of the war. So it says, William Howe at Bunker Hill, assuring his troops he would not ask them, quote, to go a step further than I go myself, Howe marched to the front line. This is really kind of unusual, I think, for British officers at the time. When the men fell back after the slaughter of the first assault, he led them up the hill twice again. After one blinding volley during the third assault, he had been the only man in the front line still standing. So quite amazing. So now McCullough here shows kind of the other side. He says, but for all his raw courage, in the heat and tumult of war, Billy Howe could be, at intervals between actions, slow-moving, procrastinating, negligent in preparing for action, and interested more in his own creature comforts and pleasures. He says that he had been stunned by the terrible cost of the British victory at Bunker Hill. There is no question, because remember, they sort of win the field, but they lose over 1,000 soldiers, and I think it's 90 officers. He says, this is Howe writing to his brother, who is, interestingly, an admiral himself in the Navy, the success is too dearly bought. And it goes on to say later, he liked to tell his troops, quote, I do not in the least doubt that you will behave like Englishmen and be a good soldier. And he himself would be a good soldier always when put to the test. He meant business, and at 45, approximately the same age as George Washington, his rival, he had a far greater experience than Washington, a far more impressive record, not to mention a better trained, better equipped troops, and the ships of the Royal Navy riding at anchor. So it's just a look at who Washington was facing in the war. Who would you want, Washington or Howe, if you were picking now and didn't know? Thanks for letting me share. I'll see you tomorrow.